what's up, buddy? How you
Every
doing?
I'm great. Good afternoon. Thank you for taking the time out today to speak to us
Yeah, it's my
about
pleasure.
your piece.
Thank you.
So we are live. I know you're in the middle of work, so
No, well, I just finished. I just finished my workout, man, and I created a little space, so y'all could see. Got my, it's reverse, but I got my Fame City shirt. I got my Harley Davidson. I got my graffiti in the back, and I got my boxing gloves, so y'all can get a little bit of a vibe of where I'm coming from, and got my Soul Box shirt on.
Perfect. Perfect. So for folks out there that don't know, Drums is an artist and a member of the internationally recognized FC crew. He is down here in Miami, so he is a local now, originally from New York. And he is the owner and operator of Soulbox FC, which is a fitness center and boxing gym here in Little Haiti in Miami. And so he's got a great business. He's a small business owner who is doing his thing here in Miami, and we appreciate what he does. He's making folks happy and healthy on an everyday basis by getting their workout on and training them how to be fit. And you have a beautiful space.
Thank you, my brother. It's it's a work of art. It's a living, breathing work of art. And my brothers, Fame City, Miami crew, and Keo, and man, I got tags on the wall from West, from Teal, from Brew, from Abbey TC5, from Mary 139, from Class TDS. I got Wayne FC. I got Doc TC5 on the wall. I got my man Serge. I got Steph X-Men from Chicago. I got Richie Hill. I got View. I got Sang. I got Vile from LA. I got Drums. And I'm waiting for a Ket tag. So come on through. I got paint.
I'm gonna come through. And so just, I pulled up some images of your space because I know you have such a wonderful and unique space. So folks can see the image here of a piece with characters by I'm guessing this is Chosky's Bruce Lee.
Yeah, that's Chosky's Bruce Lee character. Yep, that was one of the first things to go up on the wall back in 2013.
Wonderful. But today we're going to be talking about, first and foremost, the piece that you contributed to the exhibition, which is right here. And so it says, "Drum Life, we fight for freedom." Can you break down the meaning of drum life and what you're conveying here?
Absolutely. So, my tag is Drums. I wanted to incorporate my name, but not just my name. So I'm going to break down what drum life means. And I kind of took a page out of Tupac's book, but I gave it a different spin. So drum life breaks down into deeper rhythms, unite mankind. Love is for everyone. And we fight for freedom. So the 4 represents, I'm not a member of the Nation of the Gods and Earths, but I think any of us and all of us in the hip hop community have been influenced by the supreme mathematics one way or another. So the 4 represents culture freedom. And we fight for culture, we fight for freedom, freedom culture, FC. So again, deeper rhythms, unite mankind. I'm a musician. I play drums. I've been making beats. My father was a jazz musician. I DJ house music. I was in a hardcore band, and my whole thing has been about bringing people together through that deeper rhythm, which is really just your biorhythm. It's your heart. It's your frequency that comes out of your spirit. And love is for everyone. I don't care who you are, what you look like. You need food, clothing, and shelter, and you need love. You can't really exist and sustain emotionally without the love element in your life. And that's the meaning of drum life for me. So again, I took a page out of Tupac's book. Tupac's Thug Life was the hate you gave little infants F's everyone. And I wanted to take that concept, but bring some love into the game, and bring my musical analogies into the game, and again, that culture freedom, that freedom culture, which is what we fight for. This is the fight is for freedom. It's more than just being looked at as an equal. It's being treated as an equal with respect, with love, and that's what the whole fight's about. So that's the meaning of drum life.
It's a wonderful piece. It's a very uplifting message. You know, really, really wonderful message in these trying times that we're going through, and in this sort of struggle that exists, not just on a day-to-day basis, but, you know, overall in our communities. You know, today we lost a civil rights leader, a really honorable and special person in John Lewis. And your piece reminded me of this image that I saw of John Lewis, because he's wearing the Pan-African colors, the Pan-African flag,
Yes.
the red, black, and green.
Yes. And
Which
I think
is,
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I think this is a good moment for the both of us to inform our viewers on what the significance of the red, black, and green means for the panel. So if you want to start, you can start, and I'll chime in, or vice versa. But let's give the people the background on what the
well,
red,
please
black,
just
and green
jump right
stand.
into it. Break it down for us.
So the red is for the blood that unites everybody in the Pan-African diaspora. The black is for the people who are extracted from their land, who were sold into slavery, or who still live in bondage. And green is for the land, for the abundance that the continent of Africa has given the world. I remember being like 16, 17, and Steel Pulse was like, red for the blood, black for the people, green for the land stolen from Africa. So the honorable, not the honorable, but Marcus Garvey was the one who was a Jamaican, and Marcus Garvey brought that to the attention of Afro-Americans in the 20s. So the Garveyites were the first to use that red, black, and green color. And it meant the liberation of people, not just in the States, but in the African diaspora. And for those of you who aren't aware of what that term means, it's basically the North, South, Central Americas, the Caribbean, all the places where the Middle Passage affected people of West African descent, indigenous descent, meaning all of the indigenous nations of this of the Americas, and I say the Americas as plural and not singular. And you know, it's about the liberation of a mindset of colonization, of inferiority, of white supremacy, of the darker your skin being, meaning the less of a value you have to society. Like, we don't believe in that, and we have to fight to get that out of the way. You know, and a lot of times people tend to think that the racism that we experience is a uniquely North American phenomenon or disease, and it's not. Like, I've traveled, you know what I mean? I've been blessed enough to deal with different countries and deal with different people, different backgrounds, and in my own short lifespan of 50 years, I've come to see and come to know that racism, colonialism, and the brutality and the systematic change that follow those institutions, bruh, you can find them anywhere you go. But if you're blind and you don't want to see it, and you want to act like everything is all good, you can live in that bubble. But those of us who can't afford to live in that bubble, you know, that we have to be fully conscious. And I know for a fact that music has brought together so many people just through dance, that deeper rhythm has united mankind for years. And, you know, sometimes you listen to a good piece of music or you see a good piece of art, and it opens up your mind and your spirit to like, yo, this racism shit has got to stop. But it won't stop until we talk about it. We just can't.
That's true, and we're living in this history, this living legacy of racism, of colonialism, of the slave trade that's brought us all together here by force. And, you know, a lot of people don't want to really acknowledge that or think, well, that was hundreds of years ago, and they don't necessarily understand the legacy and how that's played through in generations. And so, you know, you bringing that up, you know, us talking about Marcus Garvey and the Caribbean and the African diaspora and legacy and history is important for us to understand. You know, there's all kinds of movements that are happening today as a result of the protest movement. People are being awakened and to possibilities, to conversations about reparations, to conversations about racial justice, to conversations about equality and what's needed, laws to be changed, you know, chains to be broken. And so we are part of a very long line of freedom fighters.
Now, you see that pic you just posted up of the young man in stripes? I'm going to take a guess. That's from the 30s. That's from the Jim Crow 20s and 30s, Jim Crow South. And, you know, my dad was born in Georgia in 1931. He told me stories of basically coming home from school as a little 6-year-old boy in 1937, 8-year-old boy in 1938, seeing his daddy dressed like that on the Chain Gang.
Yes.
And, you know, for those of you who haven't seen Ava DuVernay's 13th, do yourself a favor and watch it. The information in that documentary is presented in such an objective way that, you know, only someone who just doesn't want to hear it is going to deny it. It's a very strong documentary, very well put together. And it's, you know, to understand American history, we have to have conversations that are very uncomfortable. And if you can't deal with the uncomfortableness of these conversations, then how will we ever truly be free and be able to, you know, walk on stable ground? I don't know. It's uncomfortable. We got to do it.
We got to do it. And thank you for that recommendation. It is a truly powerful film that I highly recommend everybody to watch. When we painted the mural across the street from the Museum of Graffiti, we added into the piece QR codes. And in one of the QR codes, we've embedded that film because we want people to see that film. We want people to understand the prison system and how the laws were made to further enslave the population here. And it's very important for people to realize what exactly has been going on for hundreds of years now, and what folks, you know, decades ago and folks today are fighting for. And it's for justice. It's for equality.
So I'm from the Bronx, right? I'm closer to the 6th line, but the 2 line is also close to my heart, Simpson Street. So I think it was in my 20s. I don't know, but sometime in my 20s, late 20s, early 30s, where something just hit me like. So I'm gonna break it down for y'all from the Bronx. You're gonna be able to visualize this. So you're on the 2 train, you're headed south, and yeah, Simpson Street, Intervale, Prospect, Jackson. Between Jackson Avenue and 3rd Avenue and 149th Street, one stop before the Grand Concourse, the famous Rogers Bench. But you know, between Jackson and 3rd, the train goes down. But between that, I peeped the project to prison pipeline. So you got the projects, Jackson Avenue projects, right? And then you got a public school. Next to the public school, there's a little tabernacle. And next to that is a youth detention center. And when I saw that, I was like, yo, you go from the projects to school, you mess up in school, your mom is in the church praying for you. And if that shit don't work, you wind up 2 blocks down in the detention center. And I remember being on the subway, you know, just looking, and I could see young bodies looking out of the window of this detention center, looking at life pass them by, looking at people going to work, going to school, looking at life happening in their community. And I mean, you know, Spofford wasn't far from where I lived. I mean, you know, for those of us that grew up in New York City or any urban community or any city community, we know that this disproportionate number of young men and women of color that just get railroaded into the prison industrial complex. It's not an accident.
It's not an accident.
It's not. It's too much money involved for it to be a coincidence. Oh shit, them people are fucked up. Like, excuse my language, but you know, it's you know, other communities don't have that. You don't see a jail 2 blocks away from a public school. You don't see it in Westchester County, but you see it in the South Bronx. I mean, explain that, and you know, we can have a very uncomfortable conversation. I'm a mature adult. I'm not gonna get mad, but
and it's so easy to get swept up. You know, I think folks, you know, sometimes don't realize how easy or how quickly it is because of systemic racism, because of this notion of inequality and white superiority and police superiority, that children, teenagers, young men and young women in places like the Bronx get swept up, places like Manhattan in the projects could be swept up
real quick,
have their lives destroyed. Yeah. And I wanted to share this one image because you know, another great film is on the Central Park 5.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And a very powerful documentary. And this is the Daily News story in, I believe this was 1989.
It was April of '89, bro. I was 19 years old. I remember that.
April 21 of 1989,
April '89.
when
Yeah.
these 5 teenagers were picked up in Central Park, and a crime was pinned on them that they never committed. And our president, spoke against them and wanted the death penalty and all these heinous things. And so people should remember, like, we are living in this legacy of demonizing, criminalizing youth, and in particular youth of color in this country. And it's terrible, and people's lives are destroyed. It's
families, man. Families.
And families are destroyed.
Families.
And we have, there's so many examples. You talk about the Bronx. This is Eleanor Bumpers.
Yeah.
She was murdered by the police.
Yeah, yeah. An old woman.
Forcibly
She had
evicted.
mental issues, but she didn't need to get shot with a shotgun. I mean, that didn't have to happen.
No, exactly. No, this is a grandmother. She was 66 years old.
Yeah.
And it really is painful to watch, men and women and teenagers die at the hands of brutality. Innocent folks. I mean, you don't have to be innocent. You should, even if you're guilty.
Let get handcuffed and go through the process, bro. I remember in 1999, it really hit close to home because I'm from Soundview, and Soundview, Wheeler Avenue between Watson and Westchester is where Amadou Diallo, a 22-year-old West African immigrant from Senegal, was 41 shots, 19 of them hit him. Yes. Now that was 2 blocks from where I went to elementary school. I mean, that's my neighborhood, Westchester, the 6th. I already talked about that. And I remember going into this deli, not deli, a diner the next morning called the Ranch, right underneath the Morrison Avenue train station, Morrison and Westchester. I walked in there, and this sister who works in there, this Boricua, said, "Oh my God, Poppy, it's not you. I thought it was you." I said, "What are you talking about? You thought it was me?" She said, "Oh shit, I'm so glad to see you." She hugged me. I'm like, "What happened?" She said, "I thought it was you they got. I still didn't get the news yet." She showed me the Daily News, and she said, "Yo, they shot this man." Yo, my heart sank. And I realized how easily it could have been me, because those were the streets that I walked. I would get off the 6 train coming from D&D studios at 3, 4, 5 in the morning. I could have been walking home and been a target. I was a target of Giuliani's street task force. I was accosted coming home from the studio twice. I was accosted once, and another story that I'm not even going to get into. It was just like I had that same street crimes unit grab me and say, freeze and frisk me, and they didn't hurt my physical, but, the Amadou, I mean, I that made me cry, because not only could it have been me, a part of it was me. The young man was just walking home. He came to this country for the American dream, like so many people have, and he met the nightmare, because of the color of his skin. And, these 4 officers, a crime happens in a borough, it should be charged in the borough. That's the way it works in New York City. But they took that case and they tried it up in Albany, right? In front of a jury that did not represent the community in which the crime happened. I'm no lawyer, but you know what happened. The 4 officers got let off because the story was they were afraid for their life, that when the man pulled out his wallet to show his ID, they thought it was a gun. Right. And I mean, if you're a trained officer, I box, I do all this stuff. Like, if you go to shake your hand and give me the peace sign, I know you're not trying to knuckle up. Now, you can still hurt me with your fingers and all of that, but, I know the difference between this and this. And to empty your, it was heartbreaking to see. So that really touched home. And then so many instances, they just, but, I have a daughter who's 23. She's very, very politically active. My daughter, Jali, her mother, Raquel Cepeda, is another one who, my godmother, Martha Medano Vega, my mother. I've been around so many freedom fighters who are women. Let me just talk about the sisters and about the women in the community who have been so there since day one, from the Panthers, from the Garveyites. Like, we don't talk enough about how our women are on the front lines. Yes. The men always want to take, like, it's like, no. The women are like, it's like looking at Wakanda, like the Black Panther movie. Without these women, we wouldn't have even been able to get up out that triage and go back out there and do what we did. It's a complete system that I want to talk about. So much of what I've learned from the women in my life who were conscious.
Right.
Without their consciousness, I'd probably still be walking around like this.
Yes, yes, indeed. And I really appreciate you recognizing that and sharing that with everybody, because you're absolutely right. This week was the birthday of another freedom fighter, Assata Shakur.
Yeah.
And so, who is still wanted by the CIA, who is still living in, hidden, in isolation.
Tupac's godmother.
Tupac's godmother. God bless her. And she's made it so far. And so, Drums, I appreciate you sharing with us, your knowledge and your perspective and your artwork.
Thank you.
And it means a lot to us. It means a lot to us that you took the time out to create this piece. I know you're a small business owner and you are, operating, in trying times with a lot of restrictions and this very, very strange time. And
well,
so
Kat,
I appreciate that.
You asking me to do that, and I'll let you go with this. It gave me a space to free my mind from my, from my business. But you also did something for me that I didn't tell you. I hadn't painted a jacket since I was 16. And I said,
that.
When you asked me to do it, I was like, oh shit, can I do it? And then in my mind, I said, brother, you have to do it. And I didn't want to tell you, but I'm telling you now in front of everybody that thank you, because what you did was you rubbed the genie in the lamp, and I knew that I could do it, and I did it in a style that's very much in the Fame City King style. And it brought me back to the 80s. I wanted it to be fun. I wanted it to be uplifting, but I also wanted my letter game to be, legible. Like my man Dash is like, I want my grandmother to read it, and my great grandmother to read it. I don't care, I want you to come from the grave and read it. So I thought about all my people. Shout out to Blus the One, shout out to Keo, View, Teal, the whole FC TC5 family, and thank you, Kat, for bringing me out of my shell and having me become a part of this very, very important exhibition. And I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Of course, it's my pleasure, and I'm very happy that you took on the challenge. And it's an old tradition.
It's an old tradition.
It's an old tradition.
Yeah.
And so I see, the shirt that's behind you, the FC shirt with the sort of the ribbon, sort of like in the rock-a-block style.
Yeah.
Is also a very old tradition.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that we recognize, because we're not a square institution, that we represent, an art movement that is a street movement, is our street roots.
Absolutely.
And those street traditions. And so
Absolutely.
the denim jacket is a street tradition.
Absolutely.
It goes back to the 80s, of course, with graffiti culture and b-boy culture, hip-hop culture, but
goes back to the 70s, man. The flying cut sleeves. It goes,
with gang culture,
yeah.
New York gangs. And so I'm glad that you were able to participate. And everybody, it was a challenge for everybody, because it's not necessarily a tradition that's current, but we wanted to take it back, and we wanted to show the beauty of wearing art and also wearing protest art, because we want to we don't just want to shine and be fly, even though we want to do that, but we also want to make a political statement, because the world needs that right now.
We need those voices, man. We can't afford to be silent no more. And even if your art isn't verbal, when it's visual, it speaks. A picture says 1,000 words. So,
100%.
to all my graffiti people out there and all my style riders, and peace and love from Drums, FC, and Kat, thank you again. I'll be visiting you in the museum in person very soon. And it's been a pleasure to rap with you.
Thank you, sir. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, my man. I will. Peace.
Peace. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us to speak live with Drums.